Welcome to video 5, which is called Stitching the Line. So we've taken the line for a walk, we've been on a walk, and we've done a collage. You've done the applique, and we're now ready for the black lines, where we take the black line for a walk on our artwork. So enjoy this next session. So these are the threads we're going to be using. These are embroidery threads, and you can see they're all quite thick strands. So you'd pull out a strand like that, and that's the black one, and this is the one I'll be using for these samples. So I'll just show you. I'll just cut a little bit off ready to use. So take about that much off, so not too much, because you get lots of knots if you cut too much off. And when I just open it up, you'll notice there are 6 strands. So what I do, what I've always used in my work, is use 2 strands. I find that's the best depth and weight of thread. So what you do is you split it, untwist it, and split it into 3. So I'll just move those out of the way. So that's one ready, a double thread. So there's 4 there. Oh, it's nicely split ready for me. And I'll split that one as well. And you let them twist together. So you pull it apart, holding that bit so it doesn't get knotted. And you just let it twist again on its own. So it gets its twist back to the thread. And there's the other one. So each of those is a double thread, and that's the width I like to use. So in this section I'm just going to show you how to do 4 simple stitches, which will be all you need to create your artwork. So I'm just threading my needle. And I'll put the knot on the end. Oops. Starting from underneath, so the knot is on the back. Pull the thread through. And I'm going to do a running stitch. I would usually hold my hand closer, but because of the video I need to keep this hand out the way so you can see. But usually my hand would be feeling the way more. So it's just literally up and down, and if you do it flat on a piece of paper or the table, you won't ever do that. We get a lot of loops usually, and people forget where the stitch is. So there we are. That's a simple running stitch. So it gives you a nice dot and dash effect. The next stitch I'm going to do, I've already got a knot on the end of that one, is a back stitch. So I'm just going to thread the needle. Starting from the back again. What I do is a nice big stitch and then come half, so say that stitch is 1 centimetre, what I'm going to do is come up half a centimetre, and then you go back halfway into that stitch. Can you see? I'm going to go halfway onto the left hand side of that stitch, and then I come half again forward. So going the same side to the left again, I'm going into the stitch halfway and coming out halfway. I'm pulling that nice and tight so you get a nice solid line. So back half, and forward half, and pulling it nice and tight. That's a nice solid line, that is. So that's my last one. So yes, that provides you with a nice solid line. You've got dot and dash and a nice solid line. The next one, I'm going to trap this orange thread. So I don't need too much of it. I'm just going to cut a little bit and hold that down there. And get one of my threads, double thread again. Thread it through the needle. And a single knot. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up one side and go back down, trapping it, going into the other side. So I just need to hold it like that there and go into the other side. So I've got to slightly go across to the other side of the thread. If you're not, you can always move the thread, couldn't you? And trap it, so you're just trapping it like that. So when we do it in our final piece, you won't be able to see that because all the threads we're using are black, so you won't actually be able to see that, but I'm using this orange so you can see it easily. So there we are. I'm just going to the left hand side of that stitch, the thread, and trapping it again. There we are. I'll just lay that flat. If you want to turn a corner, it's really nice with this stitch. So I'll do this one straight, just the other side. So I've got to put my hand down again, and I'm going to go around the corner a little bit. So I'm just going to turn that corner a little bit. Go into the other side. So it's just literally the width of the thread I'm going in. Turning the corner again, do a bit more. And one more I'll do just to show you how easy it is and how you can make a nice corner. Go in again. It's difficult with one hand. And pull that. So you can see how you can make a nice curve with those stitches. There we are. So that's trapping the thread. That one. So you've got 3 stitches there. Just one more to do. And I'm going to show you the zigzag, which is basically just big single stitches. So thread it and knot it again. Come in from the back and do one big stitch as an angle, and then come out like a V, and then all we have to do now is join that stitch, but we need to decide where we want, so that will go there. We need to decide where the other stitch is going to come out, so I just think we'll pop out there and make it an equal. And then what we have to do there is just go in that hole and come out again. I'll make it a smaller one, so I come in there and go through. So I'm going in the same hole, which you can do when it's a large open weave, and just got to think where it goes now. So that one joins that one, and now we need to join that one there. So there we are. That's the 4 stitches you will need to learn to create your artwork. So if you've got anyone that struggles with stitching, I'm just going to show you how to best use the glue. So with the applique, so this is our spare bit of fabric, just put a little bit. This is quite thick PVA actually, so just little blobs of that. They're not really thick, because when it gets really thick you can see it through, and just tap it down. With the lines, I'll start with a thicker one. These are easier to glue down, so you just need a little bit of a layer, just so you can still see it's quite thick, like that there, so that you can see the glue lying on the top of the fabric, and just place that down, just so it catches the glue. You don't have to press it in too much. Of course, gluing a thin line is going to be more tricky, and you really need the point of your brush to make as thin a line as possible. So you might be best to start with the thick lines, and when you've got the hang of it, just a little layer of thin liner glue, and then lay your line on the top of that as well. When I use the really thin glue, the thin thread, sorry, all I would do is literally do a couple of blobs over the top, and then just press it down to make sure it joins the fabric. And maybe just there as well to catch that one, and press that down onto the fabric. With a curve, it might be best to have a thinner piece of fabric, so draw your curve first. Draw with the glue, that there, and then lay it down over the top, just tapping it down. And there we are, as good as any stitching. So that is our collage with the background colours and then the black line over the top, and that's the bit we're going to be adding now, because we have done the background. So this area here is that area, that triangle is there, that circle is there, and it all mirrors the background. So what we're going to be doing now is adding these lines. So I've been looking at all the different materials we could use. That's some black elastic actually, and then there's some black fabric off a shirt, a bit of black felt, and some, I think these are from some shorts, and this is the thread I'm going to be using. Right, so I'm threading the needle. It's quite a big needle, and then what I do, leave it to about like that, and then I'll put a knot here. I'll do a double knot again, because our needle's quite thick, so it makes a big hole through the fabric. So when you're pulling the thread through the fabric, I put my hands over the end, the bottom end of the needle, and then it doesn't pull through. If you forget to do that, don't worry, just do your thread double and do a double knot, then it won't come through. But if you can, just remember to, when you're pulling the thread through, to hold your hand over the end of the needle. So that's your thread ready. Now what we're going to do is look at the lines. So the main lines we've got are, say, this was a main line, wasn't it, coming down there and round this square. So what I'm going to use for the main line is this thick elastic. Also, we could just use it as that line, like that. Now, I don't think the end is a problem. I quite like that rough end, so I'm not bothered about that. Because it's so thick, I don't think you need to do 2 lines. We could just do the 1 line to represent that that's really thick. So I would stitch that down. So I think I'm just going to cut that piece there. There. Now also I did think you could use a pipe cleaner, and then you could bend it into that shape, and that would be really useful. So now I'm going to pick up the work. So I would have this in my lap or in my hands a bit closer, but I'm just going to show you how to catch this line without having to stitch through that elastic. It would be really hard to stitch through that elastic. So what you need to do is you need to come up one side of the black line, pull it holding the end, and then go back down. That's the easy bit because you can see where you are, and do that. So I've just caught that there. Now because it's the end bit, maybe do a double one. So just have a few goes at it. If you put your hand over where the needle's supposed to be, you can find it easier, I find. And then in again. So that's your double one over the edge, double stitch over the edge one. So turn it round again. So that's just tacked it down really nicely, hasn't it? So you want a nice curve. So I'm going to just hold that again, move along, find out where the best place to be, about there, come up, holding the end of your needle again and going back down. I think I'm going to do a double one again, and it also shows you how it, there we are, quite near to the black line, and down. Yeah, that's easy, that one. So turn it around again, holding it with my finger, coming up near there. Now because it's near the end, the double, I'm going to just pull it a little bit and then put my hand over the edge and go back down. Because we're avoiding all the sticky lines and everything, we can just keep them there till we're ready to finish. I've done this heavy line there, which I'm really pleased with, that nice shape there. And what I'm going to do now is these shapes here. So they're kind of a block, but then there's some separate bits as well going on. There's a strong line here, and the zigzag is very intricate. So what I'm going to do to start with is pick one of our double threads again and decide what kind of back. I'm going to lick it. Sorry, health and safety. And then do the double knot at the end. So I'm just thinking what materials to use on this background piece. Now you could use a thick black line. You could lay that down like we did with the elastic and lay that down and move that, or we could just do some stitching on it. I think one of the lines, this line, I'm going to just stitch it, and I'm going to show you how to do a back stitch. So we'll start from the back. It's about there, isn't it? So what we do is we do, okay, one stitch forward, like that, and then halfway back we go into it again. So it's just finding your place again and going back like that, and then going the same again like that. So it's and actually look on the stripe, it's easy to do. Now if you're struggling to do that, because I've done this a million times, so it's easy for me to find the back, says she. Like that, go back and forward. But if you struggle doing that, do it this way. Go forward a bit, which is equally tricky, but you go forward and then go that way. But then you have to do a big stitch behind. Remember to lay it flat and then go back. So it's easier to do laying it down flat. I'm just going to show you how to finish off a thread. So you finish on the back, pull it through, and then you just make a little tiny stitch like that, and then you go into that loop and pull it tight. You can do that again, but because this is on a piece of art, you don't have to, and just cut it like that. And I was just looking at this line. That's a bit of a jaggedy line, and I just thought I could use a bit of this fabric. So I cut it roughly with the scissors and made quite a jaggedy line there, so I'm going to use that. That would be nice for that as well, wouldn't it? Maybe a thicker. So I'm just looking at representations of the shapes. So that, I'm just going to show you how I would represent that line. I'll just move that away. So I'm going to lay that down here. Now we do have, actually I'm going to put this here to remind myself of these pointy bits here. So I'm coming up from underneath on the edge of the square, which I'm going to come up through here. And I'm going to do a big V here, which will just top, that's the thread being weird. So I'm just going to check that that thread, if I go back down, sorts the threads out hopefully. That should be okay. So I've done that one V, and then I'm going to come up nearly again in the same hole. And do the other V into there now. And then because I've already got a nice thick line, I'm just going to do a running stitch, which is the easiest stitch to do. So try and keep not exactly straight, because we've got a wobbly line here. So it's really simple. We just do like a tack, really. Tacking stitch, big stitch. So I'll just move that out the way. And that. So hold it down with the one hand and just tack it down with the other. I'll go to the end and I'm going to do that zigzag afterwards. So it's really filtering out to nothing, isn't it, this fabric, which is really nice. I like that. So even though our felt pen is leaving a very solid line that doesn't really do much. We're using these lines in a very different way. So I'm going to do a knot again. So I'm going to go behind, so our knots are all on the back, tiny stitch into the canvas, make a loop and just go through the loop, pull, and you've got a nice knot there. I'm just going to do a knot on the end here, and I'm just going to do that quick zigzag, double knot. So come from the back. So I'm going to go down. So it's a small zigzags to start with. And then it's easier to join it then. Move along. Join it again. We've got one more, which is a big one. And join it up at the top. Go over to the back, check the front's okay, that's a nice zigzag, and do a little stitch into the canvas and a knot, and knot that one. So that's the next line. I like that line. So we've got 3 different types of lines now. That now has stitched, every bit of fabric has been stitched down. So when I move the tacking, everything will stay in place. But we've got the main lines now. I'd like to put some, I've saved all my little black bits here because I wanted to catch these rough bits here. And stick those down, so just trying to catch the odd bit of thread like that. This idea I've taken from a lady, she's Dutch embroiderer called Tilleke Schwartz. She does a lot of this, but I like the effect. Actually, that's nicer, isn't it? We've got lots of different textures going on here. There's a bit that's holding down and a rough bit here, which represents the knot here. I haven't done the zigzag yet. And done a nice little rough bit there. We use different fabrics. We use thicker, straight ones, back stitching, running stitching, lots of different textures going on, which always makes it look more interesting. What I'm going to do then is use that bit of elastic that I did at the beginning here to bring the whole thing together. I think the only thing before that I need to do is this zigzag here. I think it needs something here, so I think I might miss that line out and just do a big zigzag here. Right, so this is my finished artwork. I'm just holding it up here on a canvas box frame, which I'll talk about later. But I'm really pleased with that, and I hope you're really pleased with your artwork as well. So I'm just going to summarise what we've been through together on this project. So we started with an idea, thanks to Paul Klee, we took the line for a walk. So to start with, we did some drawing exercises just to relax, and then drawing exercises with your eyes closed, because that was going to be the next project after our walk. We went out for a walk, and as teachers and me, I took photographs, but other students will just be remembering that walk. And then when we got back, we drew that walk, we closed our eyes, and we remembered all the distinct things we've seen on that walk, what we remember mostly about that walk. And then we took a little square or a rectangle and used the viewfinder to pick an area that we really liked to study, and we then did a collage on that little area and blew it up to A3. So we did a collage, we picked the shapes, and then when that was dry we put the lines on. And then when that was finished, we took the collage and we found some fabrics. So I found all these fabrics, and we learned how to applique. First of all, we put the shapes down, and then we put the most important bits, the lines, on the top. So I'm really pleased with this. I think it's been a great journey we've been on together. And this is how, I think, being a textured piece, I would like to put it on a canvas, because you can see all the work we've done, all the 3D work, and the bits that are sticking out, and the fat bit of elastic that sticks out, and the frayed bits. It would be a shame to put it behind a frame. I like it when we can see all the rough edges that we've kept on, and the shiny plastic. You might not be able to catch all that behind a frame. So this is just a cheap frame, and because it's canvas, we're able to stitch through it. So what I would do is literally get a big needle and catch just a few areas. You only need to do the top really, but alternatively you could, this is the back. It's quite nice, isn't it? So alternatively you could get a dowel, a little bit of dowel or a little bit of wood, or some chopsticks, and just glue them with wood glue or strong PVA, or just a couple of stitches just go along the top. So there we are, that's our finished piece. So I hope you've enjoyed it like I have, and have fun. Bye bye. Hello.
Hello.
We hope you've enjoyed taking your line for a walk. This project is a skills development CPD for teachers,
Demonstrating how we as artists develop a project from initial idea through to final piece, teaching new skills along the way. Teachers can then use this methodology to work with the children.
We hope you have found these videos useful for future projects. Thank you and goodbye. From Henrietta
and Celia. Bye.